My beloved ones, my spectacularly intelligent, creative, resourceful, resilient ones, what a joy it is to see you gathered here in this way. When we have brought the genius of our intellectuals to coincide with those who work with the lost, the last, and the lonely. And it is important that as we raise this question, where do we go from here? Let's not go where we have been. Let's not leave divided and confused. Let's understand that those that are in the prisons and those that are trying to pacify their pain with substances that destroy them have not had the benefit of an educational system which gives them the ability to analyze, to think critically, to draw a hypothesis, to see beyond what they see and to hear more than what they hear. So it's possible to be confused, and it's possible to believe that those who would befriend you are your enemies. How often in our past have we had to confront the issue of where do we go from here? Surely, after the great prophets of ancient times built empires and kingdoms and intellectual centers and wrote books and did surgery and had music and had the ability to keep their stories carved in the stones of the temples and the tombs. Surely when the colonizer came and befriended them, they must have asked themselves, which way now? Certainly when chattel slavery came into existence that took away our humanity, that took away our sense of who we were, our rituals, our celebrations, our wise sayings, our proverbs, and put us in a situation of destitution, there were those who said which way now and decided that the way now was overboard, was to give up their life and to give up the life of their children. And there are others who wondered which way now, who decided, I'm going to see this through. I'm going to find out what the end will be. And they got into situations where they had to hold their peace, where they had to speak a language they had never been taught, when they were defied by everything that made them a human being. They must have often asked, which way now? And then when freedom came, we were supposed to get 40 acres and the mule, and we didn't get it. But we believed that we would get it, and we must have said, which way now? And then sharecropping came in, and it wasn't possible to make a living. You had to work the land for nothing, disappointment, broken promises. Which way now, they must have asked. But there were those who decided that they were going to go on to the end, and they believed in each other and trusted each other. And in the name of integration, we were taught again to mistrust each other, to believe that we were like crabs in a barrel, that if one got up, we had to pull it down. And it's Asa Hilliard who said, that's not what happened. It wasn't that they were pulling each other down. They said, look, we let one get out by himself, and he became a Clarence Thomas. And so the crabs in the barrel said, we're all going together, or nobody goes. They must have asked themselves, which way now? And then when Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education came along, I was a principal in a school, and the parents believed that the children were going to get equality of educational opportunity. But it was a falsification, another disappointment, another breakdown of hope, another act of defiance, another act of rejection, another act of deliberate falsehood. And we must have asked ourselves, which way now? And then we who walk into the prisons and walk the horrid streets, flowing with the blood of our people, very often by the result of actions of our people, because we have learned to hate each other rather than the real oppressor. And so we turn our hate and wrath and confusion against each other. And we must be asking, which way now? And here we are this evening, when we have a similar situation, I would think, to Harriet Tubman, when she went back and freed the people. And some of them said, look at her sitting over there sleeping. She is an imperfect person. We have chosen to follow her. What does she know? And they said, I'd rather go back to Massa. At least I know what I have to eat. They had decided which way to go, but she pulled out her musket, didn't she? And she said, you're going to live free or die. And that's the question that we are facing today. Which way now, life or death? Which way now, hope or the loss of hope? Which way now to continue our men who no longer can be husbands and fathers in the prison system, developing behaviors and lifestyles and value systems that are destructive to them and our people? We are a global people. For whatever happens in Iraq and Afghanistan, whatever happens in North Korea, whatever happens in any country affects us because it's our sons and daughters who go there to fight out their battles. We are a global people, and we must be concerned about what happens all across this globe. What's happening in Rwanda? Why did we have what went on in Rwanda? Why do we have the atrocities in the Congo? Why do we have all of the people, brilliant people that we have heard here, who have spent their life analyzing? But the children who are in our school system don't know about them. They don't know about that history. The men and women in the prison population don't know about the things that the scholars have taken us to understand. So what is it that we must do now? Where do we go from now? We go from spreading that intellect to those who are lost and last and lonely. It goes to looking at the background of the president-elect. He understood where the strength of the people was. He understood that it was in that local organizing within a community. We have not done that well. Where do we go from here? Let's not go back to where we were, but let's determine that we're going to use what we have. People of African ancestry have always known how to make something out of nothing. We've always known how to take the imperfect and make it perfect. We've always known how to take those cast-off steel drums left on the shores of Trinidad and Tobago after the oppressor used up the oil and left them there abandoned, pollution. And they took it and made an instrument of music. And it sounds like violins and orchestras and trumpets. That which had been discarded, abused, rejected, and abandoned. That's our story. We have been abused, abandoned, rejected, and now we see a gleam of hope, and we're almost afraid of that gleam of hope. We're afraid to be hurt again. We're afraid to be disappointed again. We're afraid to be lied to again. We're afraid to see our oppressors surrounding the person that we would like to lift up. We're afraid because it means we have to say to ourselves, well, maybe I could have done better. Maybe I could have done more. Maybe I could have spoken more clearly. Maybe I could have walked the streets and told the story. Maybe I should have petitioned that the curriculum of inclusion became a reality, but we did not. Maybe I should be in the prisons and jails telling our children the story of their greatness, telling them that they are not as described, disadvantaged, culturally deprived, at risk, endangered species, because then that's what they will be, what they have always been. But if we stand up and say there are those of us who have studied this system, who have studied world history, not just the history of one group of people, but studied the history of the historical and hysterical oppressor, who understand the great economic plague and where it came from and why it came, so that we will not go back to what we have been, but we will rise up as a new, informed, intelligent people who say, I may not agree with you, but I love you, and let's work it out. Let's work it out.